All right. Hi, friends. My name is Megan Stanton. I am a member of the John Whitmer Historical Association Board, and I am the awards chair. I'm also a postdoctoral University of Wisconsin-Madison Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency Research Partner Fellow, very long job title. I am delighted to be here to MC this portion of the awards ceremony. So the awards I'm announcing today are made possible by the generosity of multiple sponsors: the Smith Pettit Foundation, Greg and Jill Brim, Dan and Beth Whittemore, Greg and Cynthia Coford, Catherine Pollock, Jerry and Sandra Mogg, Joe Geisner and the late Susan Geisner, Megan Stanton, and the JWHA Board. I thank our sponsors for their support. Next slide. Our award recipients were selected by 3 different committees. I am grateful to our committee members for the time that they dedicated to reviewing nominated materials and meeting together to make selections. Scott Esplin, Mike Markart, Catherine Pollock, and Kyle Walker served on our special award committee. I'll say a little bit more about that special award in a moment. Our book committee included Kyle Bashirs, John Dinger, and Catherine Pollock. Our article committee included Bryce, Blake and Angel, Julianne Briscoe, John Charles Duffy, and Nancy Ross. To our committee members, thank you. Next slide. For 5 decades, the John Whitmer Historical Association has brought us together as friends to learn about the community of Christ and the Latter-day Saint movement. The organization has played a key role in supporting study of the history of the community of Christ and other churches of the movement. We have been home to interdenominational conversations, research, and publishing. To commemorate our celebration of this anniversary, the board elected to sponsor 2 50th anniversary special awards. All of us earlier this year had opportunity to nominate authors who have been, number 1, instrumental in historical research and publishing at some point during the last 50 years, and number 2, active within JWHA. By the end of the nomination period, I had received 11 nominees. They are Feline Tippett Avery, Robert Flanders, John Hamer, Dick Howard, David Howlett, Melvin Johnson, Roger Lonius, Ron Romig, Bill Shepard, Steve Shields, and Jan Ships. Next slide. The Special Award Committee and I reviewed samples of each author's published writing before meeting to deliberate over the nomination materials. Each nominee has made significant contributions to our understanding of Latter-day Saint history, cartography, or religious studies. Each has transformed some aspect of our shared field. Selecting just 2 individuals was really not an easy task for the committee members and myself. Ultimately, however, the committee made a final selection of 2 award recipients, and I'm delighted to share their names with you now. Next slide. Our first award recipient of the 50th Anniversary Special Award is Dick Howard. So we're going to give Dick a moment to talk in just another moment. Kristen has brought a microphone over to him. But first, I just want to tell you a little bit more here. I don't imagine that I need to tell you that much about Dick, but I'm going to. Both his nominator and the award committee said much about Dick's influence in the history of the community of Christ through his work as church historian and in his publications. Books like Church Through the Years continue to provide a foundational overview of the history of the community of Christ to interested readers. Further, Dick not only helped found JWHA with his wife, Barb, but also has offered service that has been foundational to our success as an organization. Both his nominator and the award committee praised the mentorship he has offered and continues to give to generations of historians. Dick, you have the opportunity to say a few words.
Well, at the founding event was in our home, and I was there with a group of 14 people, and one of them was Barbara Howard, who cooked. She cooked our dinner, and we ate it. And
Didn't throw up.
I
said, and nobody threw up.
not that we know of. But I'm just really thrilled about this award. I can think of a whole lot of people that might have been given this, but I'm very, very grateful to you and the committee and those who made this selection, and I'll always cherish this award. Wow.
Okay, so let me get closer to the microphone. As we move through the remainder of our award recipients, we're going to have you come up onto the stage and possibly stand here in the hot seat for a moment as I say nice things about you or your work. And Kristen will go ahead and give you your award as well. Okay. Next slide. Our second recipient of the 50th Anniversary Special Award is David Howlett. David actively builds on our history, from his study of the Kirtland Temple as a shared space to his current research on the globalization of the community of Christ. Also, importantly, David has shared aspects of his scholarship with a larger field of religious studies through articles that utilize multiple bodies of literature. It's not easy to pull together the history of the community of Christ with scholarly literature about public history, evangelism, and colonialism, but David is doing this work. He writes not only for us, but also for audiences that might have less familiarity with the community of Christ and with the Restoration movement. David's nominator and the award committee also praised his mentorship over the past recent years. David, if you would like to, you could share a few thoughts.
So this was a really surprising award, but I just wanted to say that in accepting it, I'm reminded that intellectual work is a form of friendship and sharing at that. Stories that members of JWHA have patiently researched and written about have certainly influenced my work in a very direct way. Anything that I've published is not simply then an accomplishment of anything that I've just done, but really in the end, it's the embodiment of the connections made possible by our historical association. And for all of this, I thank you for being co-authors, co-contributors, and most of all, friends.
All right, next slide. Thank you, David and Dick. Moving forward, as a quick overview, we have 4 book awards and 3 article awards to give out today. I'd like to thank our generous sponsors once again for their support in making these awards possible. Next slide. Let's start with the Smith Pettit Best Book Award. The books nominated for this category are Spencer W. McBride's Joseph Smith for President, The Prophet, The Assassins, and the Fight for American Religious Freedom, published by Oxford University Press. Stephen L. Shields' Divergent Paths of the Restoration, an encyclopedia of the Smith-Rigdon movement, published as a 5th edition by Signature Books. And Mark L. Staker and Donald L. Enders, Joseph and Lucy's Tunbridge Farm, an archaeology and landscape study, published by John Whitmer Books. Next slide. The Smith Pettit Best Book Award recipient is Spencer McBride for his Joseph Smith for President, The Prophets, the Assassins, and the Fight for American Religious Freedom, published by Oxford University Press. Spencer's book offers an engaging examination of Joseph Smith Jr.'s run for President of the United States in 1844. But crucially, this is also a book that analyzes political violence and how it operated in pre-Civil War America. Spencer makes direct connections between the violence that Smith's followers faced and the violence experienced by other marginalized groups in the same time period. Spencer, would you like to make a comment?
Well, I'm honored. I don't know if anyone writes a book and does all those hours of work thinking about awards. As historians, we're more obsessed with what we're writing about. But in this moment, it's very rewarding and humbling at the same time. And the thought comes of Justice, my motto while writing this book, my mantra came from Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis, who famously said, "There's no such thing as great writing, only great rewriting." And so if you've read it and you've enjoyed it, know that that book was not great writing, it was hours and hours spent rewriting. Thank you.
Next slide. JWHA has long benefited from biographies that bring readers into the lives of individuals while also helping us to understand the worlds inhabited by their subjects. That is true today of our nominees for the Greg and Jill Brim Best Biography Award. Our nominees are Michael Austin's Vardis Fisher, a Mormon novelist, published by the University of Illinois Press. Terrell L. Gibbons' Stretching the Heavens, The Life of Eugene England and the Crisis of Modern Mormonism, published by the University of North Carolina Press. Casey Paul Griffith's Truth Seeker, The Life of Joseph F. Merrill, Scientist, Educator, and Apostle, published by the BYU Religious Studies Center. Christine L. Haglin's Eugene England, a Mormon Liberal, published by the University of Illinois Press. And Virginia Kern's Sally in Three Worlds, an Indian Captive in the House of Brigham Young, published by the University of Utah Press. Next slide. The Greg and Jill Brim Best Biography Award recipient is Virginia Kearns for Sally in Three Worlds, an Indian Captive in the House of Brigham Young, published by the University of Utah Press. Virginia Kearns was not able to attend our conference today, so Kristen and I accept this award on her behalf. But I also want to say a few comments about the book, just so that you're thinking through whether this is something that you need to be adding to the top of your reading pile. And I would recommend that of this book and all of our award winners and nominees. So I'm going to make your book pile pretty big. This book examines the life of a woman who was forcibly taken from her family and community before ultimately being brought into one of the households of Brigham Young. When this happened, she wasn't a young child, as many people have assumed, but as Virginia Kearns argues, she was actually a young adult when this happened. Sally in Three Worlds immerses readers in the Pavant, Ute, and Anglo Latter-day Saint cultural contexts in which Sally lived. All right, so let's give another hand for our Best Biography winner. Next slide. The Whittemore Best Documentary History Award honors scholarship that makes historical documents and archival materials more accessible through historical contextualization and documentary editing. Our nominees are from the Joseph Smith Papers Project, Documents, Volume 12, March to July 1843, edited by David W. Grua, Brent M. Rogers, Matthew C. Godfrey, Robin Scott Jensen, Christopher James Blythe, and Jessica M. Nelson, and published by the Church Historians Press. And Brigham Young, Colonizer of the American West, Diaries and Office Journals, 1832 to 1871, edited by George D. Smith, and published by Signature Books. Next slide. The Whittemore Best Documentary History Award recipient is George D. Smith for Brigham Young, Colonizer of the American West, Diaries and Office Journals, 1832 to 1871, published by Signature Books. George Smith was unable to attend our conference today, but Barbara Jones Brown will accept this award on his behalf, and Barb will give you a moment to talk too. This two-volume documentary history took on the Herculean task of working through Brigham Young's office journals. The volumes provide numerous editorial interventions that expand our knowledge of the content of Young's daily work. The award committee was impressed by both the scale and quality of this project. Barb, would you like to make a comment?
George was sorry to not be able to join us today, but he was thrilled and honored to receive this award, and he sent a statement to me. He sent a full statement we'll have available at the signature table if you'd like to read the whole thing. We have copies, but just briefly, he wrote, "The publication of the diaries and journals of Brigham Young is the culmination of many years of research and efforts of numerous people. During the book's preparation, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as well as private parties, made available electronic records of Young's office journals. I am honored to have been able to edit Young's diaries and journals into a format that makes them widely available and accessible. I'm also honored to be the recipient of this year's Best Documentary Book Award from the John Whitmer Historical Association, and we have copies of this fabulous publication, again, at Signature Books table if you'd like to come check it out. Thank you so much on behalf of George."
Next slide. Often, anthologies bring us multiple voices within the package of a single book. They're an important resource for restoration studies, authors, and readers. Our nominees for Best Anthology are Joseph Smith and His First Vision, Context, Place, and Meaning, edited by Alexander L. Baugh, Stephen C. Harper, Brent M. Rogers, and Benjamin C. Pichels, and published by the BYU Religious Studies Center and Deseret Book. And The Reed Smoot Hearings, The Investigation of a Mormon Senator and the Transformation of an American Religion, edited by Michael Harold Paulos and Condon Smith Hansen, and published by Utah State University Press. Next slide. The Best Anthology Award recipients are Michael Harold Paulos and Condon Smith Hansen for The Reed Smoot Hearings, The Investigation of a Mormon Senator and the Transformation of an American Religion. The Book Award Committee was impressed by the anthology's fresh perspective on a moment pivotal to the history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and for American religion more generally. Sorry about that, Kristen. The anthology brings together political, religious, and cultural historical methods to tell a story that is both national and local. Michael Condon, would you like to say a word?
Well, it's an honor to be here with everyone here today, here in Independence. And it's extra special for me and Condon because we, for the first time that we met was here in Independence. And that's when we began formulating this book, so back in 2010 at MHA. So it's come full circle, so this has been a great reunion. Getting this book, the Reed Smoot Hearings, published was a heavy lift. And over the last several years, we considered abandoning the project as we had bad reviews come in. At one point, we enjoyed some gallows humor and joked that Reed Smoot had nothing on us, and that since we had to wait much longer to get our book published than he had to wait to get his Senate seat retained in the Senate. But all joking aside, we'd like to thank the awards committee and as well as John Whitmer Historical Association for this recognition.
Yeah, there were so many people that deserve thanks for this. When you're dealing with 11 years, you've got a lot of people you come into contact with. And so many helped push it along. Many gave us confidence to continue on. And so all of those who support scholarship, thank you so much. And all of those with a curious mind, I love you. Thanks.
All right, Michael Condon, thank you. Next slide. We received sponsorship for 2 historical article awards through the Greg Koford Best Historical Article Award and the Pollock Best Historical Article Award. And that's fortunate, given the number of nominations that all of you were making this year. All right, so the article's topics and methodologies are really wide-ranging. As this list and the one that follows will show you, restoration studies is happening in our journals. Our nominees are R. Gene Adams, John Beck's Fabulous Mine and Its Consecrated Stock, published in Latter-day Saint Historical Studies. Another article from the too productive R. Gene Adams in The Past and Future of the Temple Lot in Independence, Jackson County, Missouri, published in Interpreter, a Journal of Latter-day Saint Faith and Scholarship. Seth Bryant's Presbygationalism on the Western Reserve, Kirtland's Orthodox Pioneers, published in JWHA Journal. Sonia Hazard's How Joseph Smith Encountered Printing Plates and Founded Mormonism, published in Religion and American Culture. Christopher Cannon Jones's A Very Poor Place for Our Doctrine, Religion and Race in the 1853 Mormon Mission to Jamaica, published in Religion and American Culture. Michael Hubbard McKay's Event or Process, How the Chamber of Old Father Whitmer Helps Us Understand Priesthood Restoration, published in BYU Studies Quarterly. Next slide. There's more, okay. Benjamin E. Parks, The Danite Constitution and Theories of Democratic Justice in Frontier America, published in BYU Studies Quarterly. W. Paul Reeves, I Dug the Graves, Isaac Lewis Manning, Joseph Smith, and Racial Connections in 2 Latter-day Saint Traditions, published in Journal of Mormon History. Christina Rossetti's Praise to the Man, The Development of Joseph Smith Deification in Wooleyite Mormonism, 1929 to 1977, published in Dialogue, a Journal of Mormon Thought. Stephen L. Shields' The Quest for Reformed Egyptian, published in JWHA Journal. Jonathan A. Stapley's Brigham Young's Garden Cosmology, published in Journal of Mormon History. John G. Turner's Sincerity, Imagination, and Myth-Making, Fawn Brody and the First Vision, published in Journal of Mormon History. Next slide. The Greg Koford Best Historical Article Award recipient is Paul Reeve for I Dug the Graves, Isaac Lewis Manning, Joseph Smith, and Racial Connections in 2 Latter-day Saint Traditions, published in Journal of Mormon History. Paul Reeve was unable to attend our conference today, so Kristen and I accept this award on his behalf. But I do want to say a few comments about it. Paul's article narrates the life of Isaac Lewis Manning, who was the brother of Jane Manning James and a member of several Restoration churches, including Joseph Smith Jr.'s original church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and the Community of Christ. The article explores the racial politics of these churches throughout the 19th century while foregrounding Isaac Lewis Manning's personal experience. Please give another hand to Paul Reeve's article. Next slide. The Pollock Best Historical Article Award recipient is Sonia Hazard for How Joseph Smith Encountered Printing Plates and Founded Mormonism, published in Religion and American Culture. Sonia Hazard was unable to attend our conference today, so Kristen and I accept this award on her behalf, but I do want to say a bit more about it. This is an article that situates Joseph Smith Jr. and his work on the Book of Mormon within the material world. As Sonia Hazard demonstrates, Smith and the three witnesses likely had encountered 19th century industrial printing plates before they encountered the gold plates. These experiences would have affected their interpretation of physical objects like the gold plates. All right, let's give her another round of applause. Next slide. Last but not least, our final award is for the Susan Geisner and Jerry Mogg Best Theological Article. Our nominated materials were published in several excellent journals. They are Matthew Bowman's Biblical Criticism, the Book of Mormon, and the Meanings of Civilization, published in the Journal of Book of Mormon Studies. Amy Easton Flake's Knowing the Book Better, Orson Pratt, George Reynolds, and Jan Schodel on the Book of Mormon, published in Journal of Book of Mormon Studies. Brooke R. Lefever's I Would Not Risk My Salvation to Any Man, Eliza R. Snow's Challenge to Salvific Coverture, published in Journal of Mormon History. Christina Rossetti's Hysteria Excommunicatus, Loyalty Oaths, Excommunication, and the Forging of a Mormon Identity, published in Journal of Mormon History. And Susan Staker's A Matter of Many Wives, Joseph Smith's Courting in Secret Nauvoo, published in JWHA Journal. Next slide. The Susan Geisner and Jerry Mogg Best Theological Article Award recipient is Brooke Lefever for I Would Not Risk My Salvation to Any Man, Eliza R. Snow's Challenge to Salvific Coverture, published in Journal of Mormon History. The article places women's writing at the center of its theological analysis. In Utah, Eliza Snow contradicted the religious instruction provided by male general authorities when she encouraged women to focus on and act upon their own individual responsibility for salvation. Ideas about church doctrine emerged not only from male prophets, they also came from women, including women leaders of the Latter-day Saint Church. Brooke Lefever was unable to attend our conference today, so Kristen and I accept this award on her behalf. Next slide. Oh, sorry, yes, please pause. I established a system and then I start betraying it. Okay, so I would like to offer a final thanks to our award sponsors, to everyone who made a nomination this year, and there were quite a few of you, to our publishers, and to our authors. Please visit our book exhibit where you can purchase some of the books and articles that I mentioned. If you have trouble finding any copies of these books and articles and you're interested in taking a look at them, please do reach out to me. I'm happy to help connect you to the authors or to other resources. Kristen, the floor is yours.
I wanted to take a moment and recognize our devoted board members whose terms are up at this conference. Jill Brim, our immediate past president and our pandemic president, having served as president of the organization for 2 years, is graduating from the board after 7 years of service and many other years helping the association. Thank you, Jill. Will you please come up? Dan Windemore has been steering our investment accounts as finance chair since 2016 and leaves the board but not the investment committee with the association. And we are well placed in our financial future thanks to Dan. Dan, will you please come up? Scott Esplin graciously came back to the board in our time of need in the past year to serve as the John Whitmer Books liaison. Scott has served as a board member previously for several years. Thank you, Scott. Will you come on up? Catherine Hill, who is with us all the way from Iceland, has completed her first term on the board. She was on the team who organized the first JWHA online event during the pandemic. She's been a member of the Whitmercast podcast committee and led the long range planning committee. Thank you, Catherine. And now we'd like to recognize the winners of our scholarships for this year. Casey, would you like to come up? Their bios can be found on pages 26 and 27 of the program. Hannah Syriac is one of our winners, and she is not able to be here with us this weekend, but we did want to recognize her as a scholarship winner. Next, we have Justin Martinez. Justin, if you're in here, could come up. Thank you. We also have Makoto Hunter. And Michael Burnham. And Robin Shanahan Spears. Congratulations.